Hello and welcome to Vox Markets. I'm John Human and I'm joined today by Richard Fisher, Chief Financial Officer at the Next Generation Stock Exchange Group, Aquis Exchange. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, good morning there.
It's been a difficult year on the markets, but Aquis has navigated through it with seemingly some ease. We're going to talk about how that's been possible. But before we do, perhaps you could tell us a bit about yourself, what you do at the company, how you got there, and then the company's three divisions. What exactly is a Next Generation Stock Exchange?
Okay, perfect. Yes, if I start with myself then, so I joined Aquis about 18 months ago as the Director of Finance and became the CFO in January this year. My background is I was a qualified accountant with PwC, and then my background's probably moved through investment banks. I was at ABN AMRO, then at BP, and then I had a long stint at RBS, where I ended up as the Treasury Finance Director and Chief Accountant. And then I decided I wanted to try something to make a difference, to be honest. I wanted to work for a smaller organization, and so I worked for a small challenger bank called Redwood, and then came to Aquis. And for me, it's the opportunity set for what Aquis can become that excited me and why I joined. I think Aquis, as I'll talk through in a moment, has sort of three main divisions, but it's facing an opportunity set that really is quite exciting about what we can become and what we can help to deliver for our clients. So yes, perhaps if I do sort of pick up, and as you said, what is a next generation stock exchange? We view ourselves as a challenger stock exchange group, and really our focus is on delivering tomorrow's markets today. So if we look at what makes us up, the first part is probably the original business that when Aquis was floated 10 years ago, it was the original division. It was Aquis Exchange. It was a subscription-based exchange offering pan-European cash equities trading. And that was our core business. But what we've added to it over this time and really built on our diversification is that we bought the Aquis Stock Exchange, as we've rebranded it to. And that's a primary exchange that's delivering capital to growth companies via the listing and trading of shares. The third key division is actually stepping off our technology that we built when we set up the exchange. And Aquis Technologies is cutting edge. It's the most advanced exchange technology we believe that you can use. And we're deploying that to other clients through licensing arrangements, and that really helps them to build better markets throughout the world. So those are the three divisions that we have, and each of those has been a valuable contributor to how we've performed in 2022.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of synergies then between those three divisions. You know, what you do in technology will help the exchange business and vice versa.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's one of the points that we've seen is that our technology sales division has really been going strong this year and also starting from last year. And it's based on the credibility points, primarily that we run a very successful exchange ourselves. So there's a very much a proof of the pudding in our own technology. But also, as you're probably aware, back at the end of 2020, we did a proof of concept with the Singapore Stock Exchange and Amazon. And that was about us doing cloud-based exchange technology. And we delivered the first significant proof of concept that this could be delivered at the required speeds to make that a viable contender. I think our technology is now perceived as cutting edge and market leading in this space. And that really has led to us being sort of successful in tenders for new contracts. So probably 2-3 years ago, I don't know if we would even have been on the contender list, but we're now not just on the short list for these contracts, we're winning them against our established competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know, as I said earlier, the markets haven't been kind this year, but Aquis has been motoring along. You know, attracting trading volumes, new listings on the AQSE, the Aquis Exchange, Stock Exchange part of the business. But perhaps let's start with Aquis Exchange itself. What have you felt the highlights have been this year that have helped you deal with the challenges the market's thrown at us all?
I think, it's certainly been an interesting year, hasn't it, from a market's perspective? And I think one of our key successes this year was in April, we announced the acquisition of the assets of the UBS dark pool, so which has rebranded as the Aquis matching pool. And that's allowed us for the first time as an exchange to operate in the dark pool space. And that's a very valuable sort of addition to what we do. So not just in terms of it added almost immediately 0.5% market share to us, it really allows us to offer to our customers the broad range of products that they needed. And we've also built out this year our market at close product, which we've had for a short period before, but that's really starting to gain traction. So we now have a third customer who's now working on the market at close with us. And we also launched our auction on demand product. And I think it's this ability now to us to finally offer a full suite of products is really helping us to succeed with our customers in that space.
I mean, you've invested lots in technology this year, lots in headcount, strengthened the board, including yourself. It looks to me like a sign that you're very confident in the growth prospects of the business, despite the macroeconomic backdrop, despite the difficult markets, and the balance sheet strength that you have must be a huge advantage at a moment like this.
No, I think it's very, very helpful to us. From a balance sheet perspective, you're absolutely right. We remain significantly overcapitalized than what's required from a regulatory perspective. We're sitting on significant cash reserves. And as we said, there's an element of that helps us in a sort of uncertain world, but it also allows us to think opportunistically, what are the opportunities that might get thrown up in these sort of times. So I think from a balance sheet perspective, that's a real strength. And I think also in these uncertain times, it's probably organizations like Aquis that thrive on disruption and innovation. It's a chance for us to push new opportunities. So as I say, in the exchange space, that dark pool, we're looking at different products for what can we do in that space to deliver what our clients need. But also in the AQSE space, I mean, this is a remarkably challenging environment. But as you may be aware, we've had 22 IPOs this year already. That's more than our main competitor in this space. And that really is the case that even in these markets, people need exchanges to be there for them. And I think our storyboard of how we help our clients to list and then help them go forward, I think is really resonating. And so I think AQSE, as I think we described when we bought this probably 2.5 years ago, this would take us 3 years to get this to a successful established exchange space. We announced at the half year that we'd got to profitability earlier than we'd forecast at that stage. We've now got over 100 companies listed on that exchange. And it's the variety of those companies is fascinating. We've had some wonderful companies listed on us over this year. And I think we really are starting to become that home for growth economy stocks who are looking for an exchange who understands their business. So I think it's been a very strong year in that respect. I think we're very proud of those companies and that many have trusted us to come to our exchange this year.
I mean, as you mentioned, it's been a very quiet year on the IPO front on the main boards, but you've seemed to buck that trend. What is it that you're doing that is giving companies the confidence to come to market at these difficult times and come to you?
I think there's a part here that they recognise almost a kindred spirit in ourselves. As you're aware, we IPO'd just 3 years ago. We know what that process is like. We understand what they're going through, and also what they're looking for in an exchange. And I think, as you're also aware, we've split AQSE into an Access and an Apex market segment, each of which has appropriate and proportionate regulation that fits companies within those different environments. So I think we're very understanding of where our clients are at that stage in their listing process. What do they need and what do we need from them? So I think there's a good relationship that exists between companies that list with Aquis Stock Exchange and ourselves. This isn't a list with us and then never speak to us again. I think we very much see this as a relationship. And I think that resonates at this time. People want to know that the exchange is there for them, not just for that first day, but going forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've even seen some companies moving from the main market to AQSE this year, which I think is an extraordinary achievement. I would interpret that as a sign that you really have reached the tipping point with this in terms of its reputation.
Yeah, I think there is a credibility point. As I said, when we acquired the company 3 years ago, I think there was sort of doubt, would you be able to build a sufficient population to make this a credible exchange? But we've delivered those evidence points consistently over the last 3 years. So I think the regulatory framework has improved. We have market data parity. We've brought the online retail broker connectivity that we said we would. And we're really starting to build on our branding and awareness. I think we're very aware there's more we want to do in this space, but I think it is becoming visible to others. And you're right, that helps people in their decision for where to list. I think they would look at the successes over the last year or two and go, yeah, Aquis Stock Exchange is very much an exchange that we would want to work with.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the big achievements this year, I guess, has been the deal with Hargreaves Lansdown to take AQSE stocks onto their retail platform. This must be this is a huge milestone, in terms of liquidity volumes, the ability to include AQSE stocks in SIPs and ISAs. I mean, talk us through what's happened there and sort of next steps in the retail brokerage space.
Well, I think we've over this year and started on the end of last year, really started to build into that sort of online retail broker connectivity space. And it is so important for the customers who list on Aquis Stock Exchange. And yeah, I think this has been a longer journey than we would have liked. But I think it goes back to the point around credibility, that it takes time for organizations such as Hargreaves Lansdown to take us on. They've seen the evidence points. They've now taken on our sort of access stocks, or sorry, Apex stocks, and they're starting to see the flow come through. So I think this is very much you build this over time. And I think the retail online community are very, very aware of the success that we're going through. And I think that's part of now go forward, our strategy is how do we build branding and awareness to help bring more flow to those platforms. I think this is all primary markets. It's liquidity. How do you improve the liquidity that you see? I think that's our mission. That's what we want to bring for these companies.
And I guess private investors want good companies to invest in. And you've mentioned throughout the year that you've got still got a very strong pipeline of new companies potentially coming to market.
Yeah, I think we talked at the half year. I think the pipeline is stronger than we've ever had, which is remarkable when you look at the market environment. But the reality is that there are literally thousands of quality businesses across the UK that would be looking over time to list. And it's making sure that there is a market that is appropriate for them and delivers the proportionate regulation for them to deliver what they need for their sort of investor community. So I think it's very, very exciting. And if I look at the range of companies that we have coming towards us, it really does span a spectrum. Almost every sector is starting to become interested. I think it's fascinating to watch. So we've had some notable successes during the year. I wouldn't want to single anyone out, but I've really enjoyed watching sort of things like Equipmake, which is a fascinating company, and it's done remarkably well since listing. So I think there's it's a really interesting range of companies who are confident in their future and finding an exchange that's appropriate for them.
And it's a very cost-effective exchange, as far as I understand it, and that's achieved despite the fact that you're from a regulatory perspective as robust as any other exchange. How do you keep the cost so competitive?
I don't think that people would be making a cost-based decision. I don't think anyone would ever come to AQSE on a cost basis, if I'm honest. I think this is genuinely, they would choose Aquis Stock Exchange as being the most appropriate home for them. And it's the fact that we do have, as you say, regulation that's equal or better, I believe, than our competitor set, but we've made sure it's appropriate. It's like for a startup company, we'd be looking just for 2 years of trading statements rather than asking for 3, which is so unlikely for a company at that stage to have. I think it's really trying to understand the risk set within companies. So I think this is, I would almost go back to my point, this would never be a cost play from a company. I think this is, they are looking for an exchange that understands them.
Absolutely. So what are the plans for 2023, across the rest of the group? Technologies we've spoken about briefly, but that really feels to me like it underpins everything you're doing. So what can we expect on the technology front and in that particular division?
I think we're very excited in the technology space. As I say, the proof of concept in 2020, at the end of 2020, has been built on through 21, 22. And what we're now delivering is, I'll describe it as it's almost fundamentally changed the economics for how people could envisage setting up an exchange. So when Aquis first formed, it probably cost almost like £1 million to build the initial exchange set. So a lot of hardware, a lot of data centers, a lot of work going in. What we're able to do now via our cloud-based technology is to enable companies to get to that sort of launch stage at far lower cost. It's made the ability for people to set up an exchange completely different. But probably the one that we've talking a lot about is the relationship with these customers. These aren't one-off technology sales. We license our technology for a period, it could be 4, 5, 6 years. But we see these as long-term relationships where we value that client and their demands are going to change as their exchange grows. and we're seeking to build the exchange that's right for them. And our evidence points so far, if we get that relationship right, our exchange technology becomes so integral to their business model. When they reach a maturity of those contracts, they will renew with us. And so we're starting to see the benefit not just of new technology licenses, where we've got probably our strongest ever pipeline for clients who are coming to us to set up an exchange. We're also seeing existing clients start to renew those licenses with us. So I think we're very excited in that space. And there's some announcements we'll be looking to make over the next few months and years, or next few months especially. But we really do believe that technology is stepping forward, and we are market leaders. I think we're very clear that since that proof of concept with Singapore Exchange and Amazon, we are differentiable in our product offering.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great platform to build from, and as you say, really create a very disruptive technology in a space that's long needed disruption. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you very much. No, really pleasure to talk with you.